today I'm going to teach us a little bit more about layers. So if I go at the top and open my layers menu, you'll see them laid out like this. So currently I have 4 layers, and some of them are checked and some of them are unchecked. The check mark means that a layer is visible. So right now, the one that says layer 4 is checked. The other ones are unchecked. They're still there for me, they just aren't visible. So if I click on the little check marks, they will appear again. Now, layer 4 has some text on it that I don't really need. So aside from unchecking on something, I literally don't need this, so I can delete it instead. To delete a layer, you're going to move it from right to left, and you're going to hit the delete button. And so now that layer is gone. So if you want an object but you just don't want to look at it right now, you can uncheck it. But if you want to completely get rid of them, you can swipe it over and hit that delete button. Now you can see there are other options on here aside from delete. There's locking and duplicating as well. So let's talk about those different functions. So first of all, we can lock a layer. So if I lock a layer, that means that I can't really affect it anymore. So on this layer, the goldfish one, I can't draw on it even though I want to. If you try something, it will open up this pop-up and it says the locked layer selection. That means that I can't do anything to it, and it'll ask me if I want to unlock or open layers or cancel. I'll hit on the open layers. It'll take me here and show me that it has that little locked symbol next to it. So now I can unlock by going here. So swiping from right to left and then hitting unlock. Now if I want to, I can draw on this layer and it is available to me again. Next we have duplicating a layer. So again, if I swipe from right to left, I can duplicate this if I would like to. And now there is a copy of it. So it'll put it exactly where it already exists. So it just looks like I have that same goldfish and nothing has changed. But if I take my transform tool, you can see that I have 2 copies of that same goldfish now. I'm going to flip that so it looks a little bit different and maybe change the size of it as well. So if you want multiple elements and you want some repetition happening, then you can play around with that. And whenever I duplicate something, unless I want it to look exactly the same, or if I want it to be exactly repetitive, then I'm going to change it up. So I'll transform it a little bit. Usually that involves me rotating or changing things back up at the transform tool. But that started by hitting the duplicate. So I can just keep going and keep going using that duplicate button. It's a little bit different than copying and pasting, a little bit quicker as well. Now that we've talked about the 3 ways that you can kind of change a layer, so deleting, duplicating, locking, I also want to talk to you about layer order. So the way that you order things matters. Right now I have my goldfish and they are all blocking or in front of my person, which I think looks pretty nice. So now that these are here, I can rename things. So you can name this one is at the bottom, or this one is small. So some sort of description since they look kind of similar. So let me rename that one. And this one's going to be the large one. Okay. So both of my goldfish are in front, and I have this flower that's kind of blocking off part of my head. So sometimes I won't always want things blocking the other ones. I will be able to change the order of my objects by grabbing my layer, so I'll just hold it down, and then I can decide where I would want this pansy flower. So I'm going to send it to the bottom. the way that layers work is whatever's at the top is going to appear above other things. So right now, my goldfish that's at the bottom is above everything. It will block everything that's underneath it. So I have it so my pansy flower is the bottommost layer. If I grab it, you can see it'll be behind everything. So I'll rotate it and let it just kind of be behind here. And I'm going to keep duplicating this over and over again. And I'm going to play around with making sort of like a little crown for my girl and going around it. So now you know how to duplicate layers. And lock them and change the order. Right now that fish is in the way, so I'll uncheck both of those. So I have this kind of cute, interesting crown kind of going around the back of my figure. But I have so many different layers. And I don't really need this all to be so separated. So there's two ways, or more than two ways, that I can go about this. Since I've made these a crown, remember that you can select multiple layers. So to select more than one layer, you will swipe from left to right. So I'm going to select all of these. And if I'd like to, I can group them. Up at the top, you see it says Layers, Delete, and Group. Now that these are all selected, I can affect them at the same time. Remember, I can't draw on more than one layer, but if I move them, now that they're all selected, I can move them together. I can also size them and transform them together as well. So those are some things you can do when you have multiple layers selected. If I know that I don't really want to have all of these layers showing at the same time, but I'd like to move them all together almost always, then I can hit what's called Group. So up at the top next to Layers, Delete, there is the Group option. And now I have created a new group. You can see all of these layers are slightly indented. And I've created a new group. I will go in there and I will rename that. This will be Flower Crown. Just for me personally, whatever you want to do with yours is fine. And if I press that little caret that looks like a V, then all the layers will kind of condense. So they're all there still. I can select that layer and now I can move them all together without having to select them all. So I can just hit on that group and move things as I want to because they're already grouped together. Because they're in a group, all of these layers are still separate. So if I want to move just one part of it at a time, I can. So I can move this up and change that. And let's put it somewhere weird. So let's put it sticking up a little bit too much. If I select on the flower crown again, you can see that it's kind of stuck there, and that's the way that it just looks now. So play around with making groups whenever you think it'll fit you and fit your needs the best. If you want things to stay together all the time, then it's a good tool to use so that you don't have to always reselect all of your layers. And that's how you make a group. There is another way to make a group that is a little bit faster in a different way. So if you click on the group or the layer itself, so I'm going to click on where it says the title of it, it pops up this side menu. So you can see it says rename, select, copy, fill layer, clear, alpha lock, mask, clipping mask, drawing assist, invert, reference, and then the two options at the bottom are merge down and combine down. So we're going to look at merging and combining down. So if I hit combine down, that is another way to create a group really quickly, but it does go one at a time. So now I have a new goldfish group, and they'll move together. Notice that those layers are still separate though. So if I undo that, and I don't keep them as a group, I click on my goldfish layer again, and instead of hitting combine down, I'm going to hit merge down. And what merge down does is it puts those two layers completely together. So now that those layers have been merged, this is one singular layer. There's not two separate layers, but they're now combined together, but combine is a different word. So these are now merged together. They have all become one layer. You can do that to the flower crown as well. So if I click on just one layer, it brings out this menu. If I click on where it says flower crown, I also have a side menu pop up. This is a lot simpler though. So there's only renaming a group or flattening a group. So flattening is the same as merging. So I can flatten this group, and now the pansy flowers are all one layer together. It's not a group anymore. I can't just pick one of those flowers from the layers, but they all work together. So decide when it's best for you to merge things and when it's best for you to keep them all separate in layers. Merging works if you don't have a lot of space and you have a very limited amount of layers to work with. Otherwise, I like to create these groups so that it's easy to organize and still very possible for me to change things if I need to. And those are some of the things that you can do with layers.